Hello, it's our TED Talk class, and today we will speak about the secret to effective nonviolent resistance. We watched a TED Talk about that, and let's discuss the TED Talk first. Vasans, can you summarize the talk? What is about?
Yes, in this video, the speaker talked about different types of non-violent activities, and she says more than 100, I think, more than 100 types of non-violent activities, and everything is different, and some people even use animals to protest. So she said that such a non-violent activity is much more better than the violent activities, and it gave good results. She gave some examples like ISIS activities from that state, Middle East countries, and even she showed some example of Afghanistan's non-violent activity movement. It was good one. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So do we believe that non-violent what is it? Not violent resistance. Yes, that not violent resistance does work. Do we have some cases when it worked? Jürgen, what do you think?
Yeah. I think it could work because you calm down the opponent. It's the best way, I think. Yeah.
Do we have examples of that when it worked?
I have no example. I think she mentioned one example. They closed 400 schools and
in Mosul, right? In Mosul, in Syria.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, it's a good example. So when ISIS occupied the city, Mosul, they provide a new curriculum. I don't know if I pronounce it right. Curriculum to the schools, and parents just refused to send children to the school. So it was a non-violent resistance. Gerard, can you speak? Do you hear us? No? We don't hear you, Gerard. So I know another example from history. It's Gandhi example, and Martin Luther King, right? Examples. So Vasans, can you tell us in short about Gandhi example? What was the case? What was the case?
Yes, because he was studying at the time in South Africa as an advocate. He was practicing as an advocate, and he was bullied. I don't know is that right word. He was traveling on a train, and he was mishandled by some white people. So it was a kind of racial moment. So and he understood that, okay, now I am facing this incident here, so my people are also facing the same racist moment in my own country back there. So I want to help them. He wanted to help them. So he moved to India, and he did many non-violent activities like protesting and process and what do you call it? Gathering a lot of people without doing any much violent activities. It worked. Really.
Good. And the speaker of the TED Talk said that there are 247 waves of non-violent resistance. It's way too much for my understanding. So what can it be? I don't know. Can you name a few? I can think about street protesters. I can think about some personal, refusal to eat, for instance, or something like this. What is the name for that? When you refuse to eat, teacherly.
Hunger strike.
hunger strike. Okay, so it can be personal or mass. It's was popular in all time in Russia, you know, in Soviet Union, not in Russia. So when something bad happened, people start to starve, and this way force government and people in charge to do something about that, because it's I don't know, because it's why I don't know why people in charge should act. I don't know, by the act somehow.
That only works if the person is famous and the government's worried he may become a martyr.
Mm-hmm. So what are the other ways from that 200? Can you name something? Gerard, let's try your sound. No, we don't hear you. Maybe you could rejoin the hangout. Maybe it help. Okay, anything else, Jorgen? Would you think about some new ways?
New ways.
I mean, name some ways of non-violent resistance. Speaker said it's too many of them, but I can't think about many.
I can't remember.
Vasans, maybe you?
Like it's a campaign, sign campaign, making people sign on lengthy letter. I don't know how to say that.
Petitions.
Yes, petition. So
Petitions.
you can say that, okay, this much people supported our activities, so they are against your policy, so please change it. So they can say like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. There are many ways to make a petitions now over the internet, and I usually once a day I receive an invitation to sign a petition about against something, you know. So in my eyes, from my point of view, it's doesn't worth anything already, because it's too many, because I don't know who will read all these petitions, but maybe in other countries it's different. And you know, we have in Russia, we have an official way to make a petition. It's a special site made by government, and if 10,000 people sign something, then our parliament have to think about it, have to discuss that issue. So it's official way to make a non-violent proposal to our parliament. Do you have something like that, or something else?
Ours is the same, 10,000 signatures, I think.
Mm-hmm. So it's an interesting number. I don't know where they get it. But maybe it's what they guess it's like enough.
Yeah.
Gerard, hello again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's working now.
Okay.
So we're discussing the ways of non-violent resistance, and speaker said there are many of them, say that 200 and many. We name it a few, like petitions, blocking roads, starvation. Can you name something else?
Demonstrations.
Demonstrations, right? So what is the main goal of these actions? Why people do that? What they want to show? Sure.
They need a lot of people agreeing to do something. So the government take action. But a few people, it's difficult to do something important.
Right. So, okay, let's go to the questions. Vasan's question, number one. In your country, do you have any non-violent activity examples that failed miserably? An interesting one. I said, yes, please, Vasan.
Actually, people wanted to do such non-violent activities because they are doing it for people. I think they are representatives of those people. So they can do the same thing by the how to say that destroying the public transport or public properties, but it will hurt. It will make the public suffer. So there's no point, because they are protesting for those people. So there's no point hurting them by doing such activities. So I think they do such a non-violent activities.
Well, I know that in Russia we have many examples when that activity goes to nothing. There are many reasons for that. One of that not all activities are sincere goes from people. Sometimes politicians or some other people with money just pay to Protestant to make a pressure for government, and usually that fails, because if there are no real idea, if there are no real feelings, it will fail. Actually, money cannot do too much. The first reason. Another reason that many these strikes are made by populists flag. People just pretend, let's do something. we are only for good, nothing bad. Like let's pay more for everyone. Okay, but how? So that's populist motto, and of course all these protesters just do it for nothing. So there are many examples. Every year we have a lot of such examples. Jorgen, can you answer this question?
No, we have. I can't imagine we have non-violent activity.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that all your activities are violent, right?
Yeah.
I'm joking, of course. Gerard, please.
In Spain, we have an example where many people supported something. It was against the Iraq war. So there were a lot of demonstrations, but the government supported George Bush all the same. And at the end, the terrorists did a terrorist attack in Madrid. They killed many people in the train station. They put some bombs.
Well, too bad. Masans, please.
We have an example. There was a lady from the east part of India. She has been doing that hunger strike for almost 16 years. Since from 2000, she has been doing that hunger strike, and the police eventually, how to say that, in between time, when she got worse, they took her to the hospital and they forcibly nose fed, like putting a tube through your nose. So they forcibly fed her, and finally, I think last year she ended her that hunger strike, and eventually she even entered to the politics. That's why she stopped the hunger strike, but she didn't won that election. She only got 90 votes out of 30,000 voters from that place. So it failed miserably sometimes. She did that for a good thing, but sometimes when it comes to politics, people always like following like sheep.
Can't hear you, Ivan.
Well, I'm sorry. I was muted.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about this force feedings. How Vasan said, nose feedings, right? Nose feeds. So what do you think? Should government do so or not? I can remember a case when in England some few members of Ireland something party era. I don't know what
IRA.
this was. IRA.
IRA.
They starved to death, and the United Kingdom government do nothing about that. So Margaret Thatcher, I remember, was in charge to say no, we will not help. If they want to starve, they have to starve to death, and they do that. So was it right, or was there another opposite case when in Soviet Union, when you declared where you climate that you are in this starvation, they probably just keep you in the hospital and the starvation is ended. So it was another way. What do you think? What way is better? What the way is better from these two? Gerard, what do you think?
I think it depends on the government. You have a government without qualms, protesting without violence is useless. For instance, imagine doing some non-violent protest again in the Nazis, with the Nazis. The Nazis don't care. They didn't care about non-violence. It's better for them even.
Yes, very good example. So we can use this tool, non-violent resistance, only against those people who care, right? So if some army intruded your country and trying to kill you, and you doing non-violent, like, it's just better for them. Okay. Another was asked questions. So, which way is better to get a permanent solution, violent or non-violent? I think the case is about permanent solution, so solution which will last for a long time. Right, Sans?
Yes, because I have read an article about this one, because some people think when they saying opposing comment to the famous people that they are thinking out of the box. Like everybody is praising Michael Jackson for his dance skill, but some people tries to saying negative things about him. So some people think they are smart. Like that, the same thing happens with Gandhi too. Some people try to say negative things about his activities. Okay, it's not working. Somebody took the violent activities, we would have get the independence much sooner than we had. So but whatever it is, non-violence will not give a permanent solution, because we have many examples like Sri Lankan activities and India's Kashmir activities with Pakistan. So it will not give you a permanent solution. Eventually, it will be cornered. Those people who took the violent activities will be cornered, and they will get a worst punishment from the authorities at the end. So, no, violent activities will not give you a good solution, permanent solution. Really.
Well, it's very interesting, because I think quite opposite. I think if you need a fast, rapid solution, you tend to use, violent methods just now, just today or tomorrow, so it's quicker. But it can't it's hard to last for a long time, because people still have this controversial thoughts. They're not persuaded in something, not convinced in something. But if you do that step by step, non-violent way, if you convince people that your way is right, it takes a lot of time, but maybe it will be permanent, it will be solid, it will last more.
Even in I think Libya and Iraq, we have such an example, because there were autocratism. How do we call it? Autocracy, I think.
It's autocracy.
Okay, autocracy. But eventually, it ended by they were killed. Whoever followed that violent activities to get the higher position, finally they were killed. So it's not a permanent solution. Yeah.
Okay. Again, we can't use non-violent method against Nazi, right? As Gerard said. Again, we can't use too much non-violent ways against people who don't care about you, right? Because they will be happy that you are non-violent. But if you need to convince something, that I think that convincing with non-violent method is better. Gerard, what do you think? What is permanent method?
But I think many important revolutions have been with violence, like the French Revolution or your revolution 100 years ago, and they had an effect in history. So all of them have some repercussions, but it depends. But always things are changing.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, yes, hard to. Sometimes non-violent methods just I don't know, just have no chances to apply. So, if you are inside the autocratic country with dictator, what would you do? I don't know. Masans.
Yes, sometimes I agree. Sometimes you have to use the violent activities because you cannot sit and talk with a terrorist and extremist because they are using how do we call it? They are handling the violent activities. So you have to reply them with such an activity.
Sure.
I remember an example of non-violent activity that failed. Do you remember 1989 in Tiananmen, the square of Tiananmen in China, in Beijing?
Mm-hmm.
They did a non-violent protest, and there is a guy in front of the tanks. So I think at the end they killed many people, and the government said no, a few members. But at the end, anything happened. So poor students failed.
Right. I'm trying to read our chat. We have a lot of examples here. So the collapse of the USSR, right? The collapse of USSR was a non-violent action, we could say. All the violence was consequences of this.
It was to me, it was like sudden and unexpected. It's like it collapsed. What happened? When?
Yes, but it was easy. It was really that people's minds were changed. People just don't want USSR anymore, and that's why it's collapsed. It's without any shoots, without any big protesters or something like this. Well, but it became to very much violence in the next few decades. Because of how on the place this ruined country, so it wasn't very happy. But the fact that USSR ruined without any violence. So what else in our chat? Americans and French revolutions, protests in China, Hong Kong protesters. It's a few examples. Well, it's looks like it's very obvious for us that non-violent methods not always a solution. Sometimes we have to use violent methods. But it's interesting that the speaker in the TED Talks doesn't think so, as it seems for me. She says that violence is obsolete already, but it will be obvious for everyone soon that violence is obsolete. Do you agree or disagree? Gerard.
I like this saying that says, to make an omelette, you need to break some eggs.
Right. But she provided an example about eggs. Do you remember? So,
yes.
It was
in Spanish, yes, huevos.
Huevos, right. So people bring a lot of eggs to government buildings, just playing with language, right? Because it's like balls and eggs almost the same, right? In the Spanish language. So they say it, you need that. Okay, and speaker said they succeeded, right? Why?
Yes.
Government was scared by these acts?
Because they do the biggest strike and they paralyze the country. If everybody agrees to they don't go to war, the country gets paralyzed, and the government don't have anything to do, cannot do anything. All the people are against the government.
Chichili, we got a company today.
Yeah.
Okay, so but do you think it's we can name that like non-violent? Because for me it's pretty hard pressure if you stop all the whole country, the whole city, if nothing works, if not shops, not schools, not transport, if everything stay down, doesn't work, is it a non-violent?
Yes, I think so. You don't kill nobody doing that.
Who knows? If hospital doesn't work, maybe you are killing people just now.
There must be a minimum services or something like this.
Right, but it looks like a good way to pressure the government, right? If you stop working, just not just protest, but stop all the services. So what they can do in this case?
Resign. The government only can do is resign.
Right. Vasants, do you like to add something?
No, usually some people helps to run such a very important activities like hospitals and many things. Yeah. They are exceptional.
Mm-hmm. Let's choose another question. So
let me give you one example of a protest that failed.
Please.
That I just remembered. Back when Ronald Reagan was president, we had a strike by the air traffic controllers. These are the guys in the airports that direct airplanes to take off and land. And they had a big strike. Well, first, it's illegal for them to strike because they provide an essential public service. So he said, go back to work or you'll all be fired and replaced. And they didn't go back to work, so he fired every one of them, replaced everyone with new hires. Everyone thought, oh my God, we're going to have all kind of plane crashes because we got all these new people, but everything was okay. So that failed, and basically all of them just lost their jobs because they had an illegal strike. So I thought that was a good move on the part of Reagan to put down illegal strikes. Yeah.
But what if they had a few air catastrophe? It will be strange.
It would have been remembered differently, yeah. It could have gone badly, yeah.
Yes. Gerard, please.
In Spain, we had this sort of a strike, but those people are overrated because computers do all the work. It's not that difficult, you know. And then when they make mistakes, it's because of them, not because of the computers. And these guys earn a lot of money. And they think they are indispensable, but they don't do anything. They only watch computers. The computers do everything.
But they speak with pilot, you know. They drink coffee. They do a lot of things. Okay, so but okay, good example. So okay, and something else. Another examples. Because you know we don't have too many strikes in Russia. We don't have them. In past maybe, but for last 10 years I can't remember anything significant. But I often see that in Western news that in Italy somewhere, and mostly it's driven by profsoyuz. How to say this? I forgot the name for that. The union of the workers of some profession. Jacques, what is the name for it?
Unions, yes.
Unions, professional unions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they trying to get something from the government, from the employers, and do the strikes. Vasants, please.
I remember one incident, but I don't know it's true or not because I heard Japanese work culture. If they have to do some strike, they for example, if they are shoemakers, they only manufacture the left shoes, not the right one. So it will make a huge stock with only left shoes. So I found that interesting.
I see. Okay. Another question. What is the famous non-violent activity? Oh, sorry, we answered that already. Okay, let's choose another one. About tactics. What are the tactics the government used to corner such activities? So, Žart, how it's happened in Spain?
Lying. They lie. They give information that's not true, or they change the information, you know. They disguise the information and say that's not true, you know, that, like always.
Jürgen, you said that you don't have the strikes, right?
Yeah. What is a corner?
Should be counter.
It's a mistake. Yes, it should be to counter. So to
oppose or,
to work against.
yeah.
Aha. Okay.
So our governments do the same. As Gerard said, they lie in mass media about if there are many people protesting, they always try to reduce the amount of protesters. They always say it's a few people just starting to do something, and they do that because they paid by U.S. government, something like that, or another ridiculous. So they just to change motive of their people. They just want to show that it's something not real, something like this. Basant?
Yes, recently we have an example. I think I shared that news about a bull taming event, and we protested for that. But it went well and it was good. But eventually, at the end, some unknown people did some violent activities like throwing stones on people and breaking into stores, and even they put on fire. They put vehicles on fire. But what happened is the media people covered even some policemen did the violent activities. They put some auto rickshaws, taxis on fire. So we assumed that government, how do you say that? Behind the screen, they did that because this one is okay. If this one is for culture, we can accept that. But if they do such thing in future, it will be a problem for the government. So if they gather every time and we have to answer them, we have to do favors, we have to make laws for them. So it should not happen again. So we should stop this right now. So I think they did that behind the screen. It's my assumption, but I don't know who did that really.
I see. I just saw that America should be a world leader in this non-violent protesters here, right? They do that some since Vietnam War. They do that everything. I can remember a lot of pictures when many people on the streets just crowded by people who protest. Right, Teacher Lee?
We do have a lot of non-violent protests. The problem is it only takes one or two people to make it turn violent. So most non-violent protests usually have some violence because of a few people.
I see.
We had a famous event called the Kent State University protest, and a bunch of college students protested, and it was peaceful until one policeman fired one shot and killed one student, and then it turned violent. It's just like the day the earth stood still. One guy just pulls the trigger when he shouldn't. You don't know what's going to happen. Right.
But I can say from our history that sometimes it's made deliberately. They claim that protest not violent, make a lot of people on the street, and then some provocator, is it the name for that? some men will provocate the violent from police or from army or from something. So, and it's become to be a snowball of violence. It's starting like more and more, and became to be a hell.
Yeah, we use the term provocateur or instigator.
Instigator, okay. Provocateur looks like a French one, right?
Yeah, yeah. Instigator's English word. To instigate means you start trouble. You start trouble.
Right. And from my point of view, it's always happen. It's always happen. When I was a student, I once participated in such mass protests. Our government decided that we have to pay for some labs in all the universities in Russia or something like that. And all the students go to the streets without, it was illegal. No one do any permissions. No one asked for permissions. It was just a mass protest against that. And I was scared a lot in a few hours after, because many young people became to do stupid things. They start to throw stones to the police. They start to declare strange things like violent mottos and so on. And I understood how fast it can be. it can become to something bad. And I go away from that. But many people stayed. And finally, police have to clear the streets from the students. And of course, there was some violence. And it was my first and the last, I hope, bad experience of these protests. Have you ever participated in one, guys? No? Okay. Jorgen, no, haven't you?
No.
Okay, so get out of control. Teacher Lee helped me with the phrase. So all this non-violent thing can easily get out of control, especially if some young men, if it's not organized, it's something like that. If some alcohol is included, something like this. Okay, so Teacher Lee, question. On the other hand, what non-violent means can the police or military use to quell a violent protest without killing protesters? Teacher Lee, you should to help us. What is quell?
Put down, squash, control, suppress, or stop. any of those, okay?
Okay, so what the police should how to rephrase this question in an easy way?
Rubber bullets. Okay, the police sometimes use rubber bullets. They hurt, but they don't kill. Sometimes they use fire hoses, water pressure, tear gas. Police in police batons, which are hitting, but they're not fatal. They just hurt. Sticks. Gerard?
In Spain, sometimes they use rubber bullets, and one woman was hit in the eye and she lost her eye. It was very grave, and it's like in America killing someone. Equal.
That's bad luck, yeah.
Yes, but in Spain it's unthinkable that police shooting with real bullets to people in a demonstration, even if they are violent, they wouldn't do that.
Well, as far as I know, Russian police use the same method again and again. They trying to isolate the most active protestants. So they do such, a few policemen grab one who is the most active in the crowd, pick them from the crowd and put their police car, and do that again and again, and somehow helps to make the crowd more patient. So they use it, and they don't give any chance to strike back. So they use it with a big platoon, So they 8 or more people just took one and put to the car, something like that. But I think because I saw many pictures in the Western media about Russian police. Gerard?
But does the police do that with peaceful demonstrations? They take the leader, even in this case?
I think that it's possible in the peaceful demonstration too. If someone, if someone acts aggressively or something like that, so it's they trying not to allow the peaceful demonstration became a violent one, and they do some things like that. So if they, I can describe it better. Masans?
Yes, taking the leader away can help sometimes, but only if the people who are following him is a blind follower. Like in India, you can easily you can easily get the politician to the prisons and everybody go and everybody, I think, how to say that, everything will be solved, because the people who are following him they are following him blindfoldedly. So they don't have motive. They just follow whatever he says. That's it. But sometimes if it's a group of sane people who knows what they are doing, they did for the bull taming event. So who come there, who came there voluntarily. You cannot do that. Such people. So only works with the less educated people.
Also, Gerard, please.
I think sometimes taking the leader is not a good decision for the government, because they can make him a martyr, and his followers can get angrier and give more excuses to do something about it.
In Russia, we always joke that it's a mandatory part of the politician career to be that to be that victim in mass protests. It's mandatory to someone to be a successful politician. So government fight against you. It means that you powerful. It means that you mean something. Masans?
Yes, I want to answer Gerard, because Gerard, we have many such political party, more than how do you say that? Many number of political parties. We call them usually as a letterpad parties. They can only shown in the records. They won't even get enough vote to get their deposit in the election. So in such cases, the taking leader away might work, but not every political parties. Yes, it won't work.
I think that even if you get away the leader in the beginning of the show, what people will do after that. if they go here for this leader, they just have no goal anymore, and it can become to something stupid even faster. I think. So let's talk about this thesis that violence will be obsolete. I still like that. So, what do you think? What this lady? What is solutions? What is the solutions? What is the solution against the terrorism provided by this lady? So she said that we can struggle with anything by non-violent method. What is non-violent method against the terrorism? I have seen that some people change their avatars on Facebook, after terrorism. Do you think it helps? It helps. Jorgen, please.
Yeah, to identifying the institutions they need to survive, like military, economy, and propaganda. For example, make alternative media. Yeah.
Okay, so Gerard?
what would be important is convincing the people around the terrorists. Because do you remember those terrorists that attacked Paris? You know, they were in Belgium in a neighborhood for 1 or 2 months, and nobody there to snitch them to the police. So people should be brave and, you know, with them, not be afraid of them.
Teacher Lee?
You have to, I read that recently an internet article about the militaries not fighting ISIS and terrorists correctly. What they need to do apparently is to actually go into the towns and villages and help the people with food and services and medical. And if they do that kind of stuff, they'll gain the hearts of the population and fight the terrorists. Right now, the terrorists are providing services for the people, and they're winning the people's hearts that way. So we have to fight for the people's hearts, and then the people will turn against the terrorists. But right now, you know, if they're helping or not turning in the terrorists, it's hard for us to find the terrorists.
Right. Well, USSR tried to do that in Afghanistan. You know, many Afghanistan towns built by Soviet soldiers, by Soviets. And I still have Afghan friends who tell me, in that time we fight against you, but now we understand that it was not so bad as we thought in that time. So, but USSR failed, and the project wasn't finished. So only the Taliban wasn't destroyed, and this town was destroyed soon by Taliban again. Vasant?
Yes, we have such an example. I think you might have heard about Kashmir, the top part of India. So we and Pakistan fight for that region for so long, since from our independence. So, but we are fighting over that land. But the reality is the people don't want to join either side. So they want to be independent. But what we thought about is, okay, the landscape of Kashmir is good for our protection. So because it has Himalayas, so it will be hard for those countries to evade India. So we can hold them there because due to the snow mountains. So we thought it would be good for Indian territory. So we are trying to grab that part, but they do very civilian activities. How do we call it? The rebellion activities inside the Kashmir. So it has been on the news for a while. So the reality is they don't want to be on any side. They want to be an independent.
I have a question for Vasant. So what do you think? Was it a good idea splitting India and Pakistan because, you know, religion? Or would it be better if they were united, even those differences?
No, there's no conflict between the people, I think. The conflict between the government, because a single person could unite the entire India, because how do we call it? Before the independence, all the part of India was kingdoms. So it consists of many kingdoms. So he went there and then he talked to the people. So everything went well. Everybody wanted to join as a single nation. But somehow something went wrong with that part we call Pakistan. So they wanted freedom. Then we let them go. But somehow some people are still trying to do politics and make the media also covers such activities. But what people think is, we still think we are brothers. We still wanted to. If you see some news from the border area, they still wanted to go inside Pakistan. Then that those people want to come to India because they have relations each other part. So politics won sometimes. You know.
Yes, not sometimes, very often. very often, because it's hard to find two people, two men who have so much so much hate to each other as government usually have. So it's such thing. But well, TED Talk teach us that we have to use non-violent strategy. Right? Just stop our work and say to our government, we will not start our work before you you did something. Something like that. So I think our questions are done. The last one. What is the famous non-violent activity from your country's history? So anything from history? Anything good?
I think one of the first examples of nonviolent protests that happened was in Poland with a guy named Lech Walesa or something like that.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
He organized the labor. Huh?
The man with a big mustache.
I can't. Maybe. But he organized a movement called Solidarity. And he got basically, I think, a big labor movement, and he was able to bring about good change in Poland. So he became very well known across the world. I think Mandela in Africa, South Africa, Nelson Mandela, tried to oppose the anti-black sentiment called apartheid, where the black and white were separate and the black were subjugated and the whites were. So he led a big movement. I think eventually he got rid of that, but it took years and years and years. He went to prison, had hunger strikes, all kinds of stuff. So there's several in history that we've had that were successful and famous.
Martin Luther King, right? I have a dream.
King, yeah.
I have a dream.
That's all people remember from the whole speech. I have a dream. That's it.
What else, please?
Yes, one interesting fact is what Martin Luther King and Nelson Mandela and many some people did was inspired by Gandhi's philosophy, but they won the Nobel Prize, not Gandhi. It was an interesting fact. Nobody knows why he didn't won the Nobel Prize for Peace. No.
Yeah, they gave Obama the Nobel Prize for Peace, and I'm going, he didn't do anything. Sad.
Okay, let's hope that Trump will be next Nobel laureate. Gerard, please.
I read Gandhi's self-autobiography, and he started his non-violent protest in South Africa because there were a lot of Indian people working there, and they were mistreated and segregated. So he started there to do these non-violent actions.
Jürgen, what about Sweden story, history? Do you have some big protesters, something like that?
Yeah, a long time ago, but I can't. Not usual. It's not. It's rare nowadays.
Well, probably I know our history badly, but I can't remember anything like this. I mean, there are a lot of small local events when people protest, but nothing big in general, nothing that urged country to shift to some way, nothing like that. So perhaps it's not our way.
What about Crimea? Were there any big protests before that situation got so big, or?
Protests in Russia about it's impossible.
Crimea, the Ukraine-Russia conflict over Crimea.
No, it's
I don't remember the early days of how that got started. Were there protests in Crimea, or what caused that conflict to begin?
It started not in Russia, in Ukraine. The Ukrainian citizens were protesting against their then parliament, then president. So it started there, and then they government changed, And when the government changed by this way, by way of protesting, the Crimea refused to obey to new government, and they made a referendum and joined Russia. And but in Russia we have nothing about that. No, no actions. I mean, no protests or something like that. And because of long and complicated story that all Russians consider the Crimea like ours, it's impossible to be any protests. Gerard, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say that in the south of Europe, we think that countries from the north of Europe are so perfect, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, because the government and the politicians, for a small thing, they resign. For a very, very small detail, they resign. Even in Spain, that's very difficult. They need to kill someone, almost.
Yeah. So even a little detail can make some politician resign in North Europe, right?
Yes.
And the same in America, actually, right? So that scandal about president in the past, how call that impeachment? Watergate.
We have impeachment, but that's forced on them. No politician ever says, "I screwed up, I quit." They hang on tooth and nail until they're just beaten up and forced to leave. They don't give up easy.
Once in our history, we had a president who said, who screwed too much, but he didn't say that. He said, "I'm tired and I'm going. I will go because of that." Vasants, you have a question?
Yes, I have a question about the hunger strike. People hurt themselves. So, do you ever wonder about why should the government react for such an activity? Because people hurt themselves. Hunger strike. So,
Right.
do you know?
I understand the question. So why the government should react? Well, it's answer for that unclear in my case. I don't know why. But I know that in Russia we have some rule or law maybe that our government always reacts. So they don't allow people to die because of hunger strike. It's never happened. But it's not clear for me why it should be so. Gerard?
Well, I think if someone is able to put his life in danger, that means something. That means that there is a cause behind this behavior. But also they need a media to cover this hunger strike. If nobody knows nothing about the hunger strike, it's useless doing that.
Right. What else?
Yes, because what I assume is the government has to be responsible for. Excuse me. Okay. The government has to be responsible for every individual's how do you call it, their life. So, because it can even result in the resignation of the government. The opposite party can even pull them down. It might happen.
Tishli, help us the new word. What is that? Martyr, or how to pronounce it?
Martyr. Martyr is a person that becomes more powerful after he dies than while he's living. His death ignites the population against the government. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the government doesn't want to cause the death of a famous protester because that will unite and empower the population to be even stronger against the government. So if it's a famous person, they don't want him to die because he'll become a martyr and make the opposition more powerful. But if it's an unimportant person, if he dies, nobody cares. So usually the hunger strikes are famous people like Gandhi or someone like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now
Many people here to be famous after a hunger strike. So they were no one, but after hunger strike, after they struggle, they become to be I don't know, to a hero.
Yeah. Sometimes,
okay, so our time is over almost. Any last comments? Do we have questions?
You might want to look at the pictures of protests in the Padlet, because some of the scenes are fairly famous. You probably recognize some of those photographs that can be very powerful also during protesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The one with tank and men standing in the front of the tank, I see it. I have seen that many times. So,
but you know what could have changed that moment, good or bad, I don't know. But what if a soldier had walked across the street, walked up to that man and shot him in the head and killed him dead? Would that have been good or bad? It's hard to say. He could have become a martyr, and it could have turned very violent, or they might have said, "Oh, that's not a good idea to protest." It's hard to say, you know.
yeah. Right. So thank you for coming. Thank you for nice class, and I hope see you all tomorrow on our movie class. Accountant this time. So bye bye.
Bye bye.